Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, Kim Seltzer, a dating and makeover expert, where I will help you build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. Do you look in the mirror and sometimes feel you are just too old to date or find love, and maybe your body isn't what it used to be, and menopause has affected your energy and your body for that matter, and overall you don't feel, well, sexy? So you find yourself playing it small or even hiding, and you even tell people that you love your life and that you don't need a man or woman, that you're perfectly fine just the way it is. But deep down, you know that that's not really the case. That it's not that you need somebody, but boy, wouldn't it be nice to have love in your life and someone to share things with. And often I find that when you feel defeated or scared, it's easier to say, I'm good. But here's the thing. You are sexy. You are hot. And yes, that flirt you once were is still in there. I was just talking to somebody the other day, and she's like, I was a total sexy vixen back in my 20s, and I didn't even have to try so hard. Guys would just flock to me. And I said, she's still in there. We got to bring her out to play, but in a 2.0 way. And I know this to be true. I have taught an 85-year-old woman to sit at a bar and pick up a guy. I kid you not. It doesn't discriminate. Flirting is just a way of life. And I want to dive in today about the powerful truth that aging isn't a decline. It's actually a divine design and a superpower. It's a stage where your confidence, wisdom, and sensuality can actually amplify if you really decide that and know how to embrace it. And so many people I work with, they tell me they feel invisible, or they're past their prime when dating, or just moving through midlife. But what if this is actually the time to reinvent yourself? To reclaim your radiance, flirtation, and vitality in a whole new way. You all have heard my story ad nauseum, my red dress moment when I went from frumpy mama to sexy mama. And it really, I had to get over myself. Again, it's not until you look in the mirror and you say, I got it going on, I'm sexy, that's when everyone else sees you that way. There was a woman who I remember working with, and like a lot of men and women, and she was in her late 50s, and she had been divorced, and she called me up, and she's like, Kimmy, I don't know where to start. I've not dated for 30 years. I was raising my kids. I've been working, and I have to say, I feel invisible. I don't, like, everywhere I go, I feel like men don't look at me anymore. And it's like the world has stopped seeing me. And, I always, when I hear that, I'm so glad that people call me up, because I wanted to show her another way. So she did an intensive with me. She went to one of my retreats, and we also did our wing girl session. And the first thing we had to do was go shopping. And one of the things that I realized is she was really giving her power away. Like, she kept saying sorry for things that was not her fault. And she was married to a raging narcissist, and she was constantly in this giving mode, but not receiving mode. But here's the thing, and I've told some of this story before, but it really highlights what we're going to talk about today. We are about to go shopping because it was the first thing that we were going to do. And she's looking at the big department store doors, and her eyes just well up in tears. And I'm like, what's up? And she's like, I can't do this. I said, what's going on? She's like, there's something I haven't told you. I said, what's that? She said, I've covered my mirrors for the last 15 years, and I haven't really seen myself. And, if I was a traditional therapist, as I had been for many years, I probably would have done some cognitive therapy on her body image. That is not what she needed. She needed to feel differently. And so I gave her some tough love. I gave her a big hug. I said, I'm going to hold your hand. We're going to go through the store. And I just want you to do me a favor. And I grabbed some boots, and I grabbed this like hot leather jacket that was red. And I said, I just want you to put these two things on. I want you to twirl around. I want you to give me 5 seconds and just look in the mirror. Just hold it. That's all I want you to do. So she does it. And it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And she just kept staring at herself, and her eyes welled up with tears once again. And this time it was tears of joy. And she's like, Kimmy, I haven't seen myself so beautiful in years. And now I start crying and we're hugging, and then I created a monster, quite honestly. We started skipping through the store. She started changing with the door open, and this is a woman that had body image issues. We did a whole photo shoot, and everything, it just snowballed from there. We got her online. She started dating up a storm, and she attracted love in her life. And he was not a narcissist, by the way. So she had to break some patterns there as well. But everything is all to say is that it is how we feel. And everything shifts when you start looking at yourself differently. Today, she's in a healthy relationship, as I said, and that's exactly what the conversation is going to be about today. How aging isn't about disappearing, it's about re-emerging. So I am super excited about my guest today on that note, who is perfect expert to help me talk about what it really means to age vibrantly, how to stay visible and magnetic in love and life, and how to rewrite the story society tells us about getting older. We're going to talk about how to transform your mindset around getting older, why your second act can be the most magnetic chapter of your life, and how to show up in dating and daily life just with unapologetic radiance and confidence. So, joining me today is someone who is just this beautiful soul that I have gotten to know a little bit, and she embodies that philosophy. You may recognize her from the Golden Bachelor and Celebrity Family Feud. I didn't know that you were on that, but beyond her TV appearances, she is a powerhouse advocate for pro-aging and vibrant living. She's the founder of Hardy Life, where she helps women embrace aging as a journey of excellence, not decline, through mindset transformation, wellness, and authentic self expression. You see why I have her on. With over 4 decades in women's wellness, a background in occupational therapy, which is super cool, and more than 20 fitness certifications under her belt, she has made it her mission to revolutionize how we think about growing older and how we can do it with grace, joy, and confidence. Welcome, Natascha Hardee. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and love the topic and love what we're going to talk about because that is aging and excellence is my jam because you know what I say, age is just a number, not a limitation, and limitations doesn't exist for me and neither should they for you.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm gotten to know you a little bit, and I purposely didn't like research you. I don't really know all of you. Obviously, we all know you from the first episode of the Golden Bachelor, and honestly, like you were just a breath of fresh air. I loved watching you every time you were on. Like you just made me smile. You have that just that energy. But I wondered before that, you been a life coach and you were focusing on ageism before that? Like I'd love to hear your story and how you got into all that.
Yeah, I actually been working with women, oddly enough, mature women since I was in my 40s. When I was a fitness professional trainer and all of that, the women, they would always give me the older clients, if you will. I'll just say older, right?
Air
The
quotes.
mature women. And they used to tell me, you're a baby. You got plenty of time to do all the things you want to do. And I was in my 40s and I was thinking, what? What are they talking about? And it's so interesting. So from fitness, I realized the issue with my clients wasn't only physical, it was mental. And I decided to go into being a life coach. And I became certified because I figure I've been coaching people for years. It's just I haven't been certified. So I became certified, and my first venture, I tell people, was something called sexability.
Oh my God, I love that.
And it was really to because in this stage, people have a difficult time having sex for many reasons. A lot of it at the time, I was leaning on my fitness background and my OT background, and it was like physical stamina. So it's stamina, stretching, core strength, and what's the fourth one? I always forget one of them. It's like flexibility or breathing, something like that, vibrancy. So these are things we strength, right? We don't have strength in our legs. So it's strength, flexibility, core strength, and something else I just said. I can't remember. But that's what I was focused on, right? And at the time, people were saying, "Oh, you can't use the word sex online. You can't this." So sexability. So all my stuff was getting banned. So then I transitioned into menopause. So I was focused on menopause for, years. And we're talking about 2019, 2020. This stuff is on trend now, but
I
it
was gonna say
wasn't
you were
then.
ahead of your time. Yeah.
Everybody was saying, why are you talking about menopause? So then I kind of transitioned into midlife and I created a podcast, Let's Talk Midlife. And then they would tell me, why am I using the word midlife? And I just couldn't take it anymore. I said, you know what? I'm just going to do women over 50 and I'm not going to change it. So since 2018, I've been doing this focus, but even in my 40s, I was working with women in their 60s, in their 70s, in their 80s. And I have a client now who's I train a couple of times a week, and she's 91. And I've been training her for over 10 years, and I call her my age and excellence mentor.
Ah! Oh my God, I love your terms.
And she just retired last summer, a year ago, from her second career as a master storyteller. So, it's a process. And I like speaking with people who are, and they tell me now, people who are in their 80s or
Hmm.
90s or even 70s, you're still young. You got plenty of time to do. They say that, and I take it in because if someone's 45, I tell them the same thing, or 40 or in their 30s, you got time. So it's relative. Time is relative. I think the biggest issue is something you said in your opening, which is society minimizes us and makes us invisible when we no longer are reproducing children.
Hmm.
However, what they don't amplify is coming into your 50s and your 40s, you're bringing four decades, 5 decades, and as you go on, 6 7 decades of life knowledge, wisdom, and expertise with you, and that can't be minimized. And I do believe that the powers that be know that that's when we are stepping into our power, but we don't understand we have the power. And we also have the economic power because women over 50 have a $15 trillion spending power. I didn't stutter, in this country. 19 trillion globally, but $15 trillion spending power in this country. And if we were to spread that word and everyone would know about, all of us would know about it, we can make serious moves by withholding that money and getting the attention and the focus we need, because companies only spend 5% of their advertising dollars on us, and we see it when we go to the stores because we're not represented in any of the photographs or the advertising.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I'm so glad that there's finally focus here and it gives me hope and especially with this thing called dating, that it's never too late. And obviously because I was wondering, since you've been doing this for a long time, how has that applied to your own life and ways of like dating later in life?
Well, I'll tell you, I feel like I was definitely into dating, but when I became a single parent to my granddaughter at 54, all of that, I just shut all of that down. I live in New York City. I feel like, being responsible for a child and what it takes to be responsible for a child, and then trying to, if you will, assess, find the time to assess for another human being if they're the right person, should they be in your life. I just put it on pause, and I just didn't date, and I believe it was when I went on the show is I realized, wow, I hadn't dated in 5, 6 years. And then I also realized I wasn't taught how to date. I don't even know how to date. And so I had to back it up and start getting my skill set, my tools for learning how to date. There's a whole assessment process and knowing what you want and what you desire. Instead of, I think we tend to go through, I know I have gone through my life dating the same way I dated when I was a teenager, and it evolves. And when you realize the men are doing the same thing too, like there's the lack of emotional intelligence, or men who have done work on themselves is astronomical. Like I don't feel a lot of men are out here going, okay, well, let me go to therapy. Okay, let me get my emotional intelligence in order. Or let me figure out what my childhood trauma is. I don't feel like men are doing that. They're so cocky and they're so full of themselves that they feel like, I'm the bee's knees and I don't have to uh do all of that. And when I was on Bachelor in Paradise this summer, a lot of people online and my friends were saying, well, what happened with you and RJ? Why didn't you stay? Why didn't you pick him? And I said, because when I was talking to him, he never asked me anything about myself. And that was a huge
Mm.
red flag for me. He didn't ask me, well, if you were to walk up to him today and say, tell me something about Natasha, he couldn't tell you anything about me because he didn't ask. He didn't know I was a single parent to my granddaughter. He doesn't know I'm a life coach. He doesn't know that I've done fitness. He doesn't know anything about me because he didn't ask.
Mm. So good what you're saying and important. And I think that's true. You and I talked a little bit last time we just had that conversation that dating is a skill, right? And if you have not, first of all, dated in a long time, actually back in our day, and I say our, anybody who is over the age 40, right? Like we were dating for the sake of looking for a partner, and we were
Yeah.
more relationship minded and oriented. And so we dated with intention and maybe stuck with one person, and then there was a courtship, and it was a different level of pacing, but also we wanted something different back then. And so now, fast forward, people are almost, and I don't know if this happened to you or if you saw that happen on the show, it's almost like you've been kind of orbiting the earth in this rocket ship, for many, many years. You get plopped down and then you're like picking up where you left off. And you lift it off, but yet everyone looks different, right? Like everyone has tons more baggage that they have to navigate through, but also what we want is different. So I'm so curious, like how you saw maybe that even play out on the show where people went in thinking that they had good intentions, but then they got too focused on the relationship and not enough on the skills to just see if you could even connect with the person.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the women, most of the women are looking for a partner, but they're looking for relatability. I think I
Yeah.
feel like they're looking for relatability. And I find for me, I have set questions I ask, and those questions are character questions about character. Like, you know what I mean? I have some specific questions I ask. What is most important to you, or if you had enough money and time in your life, what would you do? Right? And the answer to that is very telling. But I feel that even still, people aren't dating from the sense of having a skill set. They're like, oh, I'm just getting out here dating. I'm just gonna date. But dating has to be purposeful, and it has to be, you need to be intentional. It's just like when you go in for a job. Like when I go for a job, I'm looking for A, B, C, and D. It's like when you're looking for a partner, I'm looking for someone who's healthy, someone who is financially stable, somebody who is not who can have I can have a communication with, right? Um, and I find that men in this stage, they're thinking, I don't have to, like, it's very peacockish. I don't have to work on myself. I'm a catch. I'm a catch no matter if I have diabetes, hypertension, cancer, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I am, like, my health is poor, if I have a ism, if I have a addiction, if I don't, if I'm socially inept, like, they don't feel like any of that. It's just like, and I feel like we women, and this is part of how we're trained, how we're raised, is we're sitting here thinking, okay, let me make sure I present well, I look good, that I'm attractive, and and then let's see what happens. And if I like him and he likes me, we're a good fit. And it can't be about like, like I heard somebody say, like gets us in a lot of trouble. It's like, I like cheeseburgers, but I can't eat them every day. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you got to get past the
Right.
like thing. And I was like, wow, that's a powerful statement. Like, it was like
And
they were little,
cheeseburgers aren't that good for you anyway, right? So like,
but it's like, but that's the point. Just because I like them doesn't mean it's good for me. And
yeah.
that's the whole point. Just because you like someone doesn't mean they're good for you. And that's where we gotta get that's where I feel like the breakdown is happening. We're not using dating as a skill, and courtship. Before, you were courting someone meant you courted multiple people. You're talking to several people. This was back in the day. This is back before my time. But I really feel like dating gets to be constructed differently, and we need to teach our sons and our daughters how to date, because both of them, if you look at it, I have a son, and I don't feel like my son has picked good partners. Just why? Because dating was not a skill that was taught in the house, and the girls the same way. Like, I picked some good people and I picked some not so good people. You know what I mean? But that wasn't taught. We get to get clear on the fact that we need to learn how to date, the skill of dating, just like the skill of using the computer and the skill of cooking and this all the skills that we have, right? We get to learn how to do that.
Well, and when you're focused on the skill, not on the outcome, your confidence builds because you get to be good at it and really pull in and see what feels good and who is right for you and really be present with it. Here's the other thing I find, and I didn't know if you like saw this on the show. There's so many directions I could go here with you because you said many juicy things. But like, again, because we're dating later in life, life has happened, right? There's been trauma, there's been broken relationships, there's been death, and we're carrying kind of the baggage with us. And so we get kind of bogged down from the past. And then we also are fearful of the future. And so we're trying to scrutinize every little thing to try to ward off against what happened to us in the past, that we're not being present, that we're not really connecting and being curious. And to me, that's what I loved, at least the way the show was framed and edited. It looked like you all were like really kind of in the moment and like enjoying yourselves. So I was curious, was that the experience? Like, what did you and some of the other people learn about the dating skills and being present?
I I think that it was um I think that everyone brought their A game, if you will. Everyone tried to,
Yeah.
like, whoever played a guitar, and who done this and who done that. And, I really feel like charming, talking about their children and family and all that stuff. I thought what was so powerful to me is when I walked into the mansion and I saw all those women there, and we were all so excited to connect with each other and meet each other as women and get to know each other. To me, that was very important, because I feel like a lot of times women in this stage of life are very lonely, or they're isolated, or they have a lot of people around them, but the people around them aren't celebrating them or honoring them for who they are or appreciating them. So they're in a groove of whatever that groove is, so they can't get out of that. So I thought it was magnificent to see a room full of women who are willing to take a chance. And I find that there are a lot of people in this age, like a lot of my personal friends said, "Oh my God, what made you do that? I don't know if I could have done that. I don't think I should have done it." However, the flip side of it is maybe they may not have gone on TV or did a dating show or done reality TV, but I do know that it has inspired a lot of my friends and even I guess nationwide women to feel like, okay, well, I may not go on a dating show, but I'm going to go do this thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do that. Like it's not being able to take the opportunity to do whatever it is you want to do at this stage of life and not falling into the being old or taking a step to start dating.
Yes.
What this is all about. It's all about taking the steps and not listening to the people who are themselves are afraid uh and that of the fear is from many different levels. Fear they're going to lose you, fear you're not available for them, fear you're not there to do the things you need to do, but you go and do what you do for yourself because we only have one life to live and we got more days behind us than we do in front of us. So it's time to do that, whatever that is. If it's dating, going on dating apps, whether it's meeting new people, going to parties, going to join in organizations where you can meet people. I mean, there's so many ways to meet people, including online, but put yourself out there. Just put yourself out there.
Amen. Like sing it
Yeah.
loud, sing it proud. That's exactly, and because I would get interviewed quite a bit in the first season on media about like what was happening, and a lot of people were, they had comments on different aspects, and I kept just saying exactly what you said. Look at the sexy confidence that has come out of everyone. It doesn't matter like who ends up with, Gary or who does this or who does that. That's what I meant about being present. Like it really highlighted people having joy with one another and coming alive again. Like I heard several themes of that. And even in this season, I was
Mhm.
like, it feels so good to feel alive again, where people maybe have been dormant for a long time. And I love what you just said too. It's the joy moving forward and not like being bogged down and the past and the positivity that can, create. I have to go back to because you said this a couple times about like the men versus the women, like as you see the difference of the aging. Um, do you find that, like maybe the men learned through the shows to be more in touch with their feelings and it kind of brought forth some of the things that maybe they weren't even aware of because I know I see that but I didn't know like in the show or in the shows and you might know like behind the scenes stuff of that happening.
I'm not really sure because there's a real distinction between people who leave night one, the
Right.
first night, then someone who stays. Like I left in the second episode. So when you stay, there's a whole different you move into the mansion, you hang out with the people, you share a room with them, you eat with them, you bathe with them, like you're doing so many things together. And so people that may leave the first night don't have that camaraderie. And so because you don't have that, you don't learn that. So I would say the men that left the first night probably didn't get that, but the men that stayed longer probably got more of that. I do feel that being in a space for with the men to talk with other men about stuff was probably very good for them. But I don't know if a lot of them have done the deep work. I don't know if they've gone deeper.
They need
Maybe
to come to my retreat.
maybe some of them have, Maybe some of
Yeah.
them haven't, some of them may not feel like they need to do anything, you know.
Yeah.
I just think that we don't a lot of times we lie to ourselves, you know, to be
Mhm.
quite honest with you, and we don't tell ourselves the truth about what's going on with us. And that type of honesty is lacking. Like, you know, I've had this underlying issue in my life for all of my life, you know, and I need to probably address it. You know, you can't pray it away, you can't exercise it away, you know, you can't drink it away, you can't, you know, sing it away, you can't work it away. You gotta face whatever that is, and you gotta go through it to get to the other side.
And you got to get uncomfortable. I mean, that's the thing. It's the only time we change. We don't change in a state of comfort. And that is to me, the definition of insanity, because you're just doing things that bring you the comfort, but that doesn't necessarily help you move the needle in the direction that you want to. So it is so true. And here's the thing that I find, and this is has to do with the generation differences, and it's exactly kind of the age thing, because I have sons, you know, in their 20s, and it's funny because they don't know how to court. They don't that have that sense of like really earning each other almost. It's like they hang out and then they hook up. And then you're like boyfriend and girlfriend the next day. But yet, I think in our generation, or, you know, early on, emotional intelligence just wasn't a thing. Like it was almost taboo to have a therapist. And for men to show emotion was not common. So I think we're going through this transition right now because this is where the younger generation can teach the older generation because they're very into emotional intelligence and expressing themselves. I see it in the boys too, but we have to teach them that sense of, you know, kind of courtship, so to speak, when it comes to dating. And I say like it's really dating yourself. It's
Okay.
really dating yourself. Like, did you through the show, like that whole process, did you learn things about yourself?
Yeah, I learned the number one thing I learned is I didn't know how to date.
Yeah.
I was like, you don't know how to date. Because whenever I got around Gary, I just felt like I didn't know what to talk about. And the things that I was talking about, I remember we did a group date and I had asked him a question. I can't remember what it was. Like I worked on memorizing these kind of dating questions, right?
Oh my
Like
God, that's so funny.
yeah, yeah. It's like I can't even remember them now, but I had looked, I, you know, went to AI and asked, well, what are good dating questions? And wrote a couple of them down and like, you know, like things like what are you looking for in your next partner, or what have you learned from your what are like two or three most important things that you've learned in from your marriage that you would move forward with. And I remember, and I don't know what I asked him, but he said, wow, you really, it was like he was really taken aback by my question. He was like, wow, you really asked some important questions here. Like it was like really like, whoa. And so that just let me know that, you know, even on his end, he's not even doing the stuff, right? So I have to ask myself those questions too. What have I learned from my previous relationships? What is something, you know, if I talk to my partners from previous times, like what was it that you
Yeah.
felt like how I showed up that really wasn't palatable to you. So I can learn for myself, like what is it that I can improve on, in other words. And even sometimes asking that to a former partner, they don't feel comfortable even answering that question,
Hmm.
telling me about myself because that type of honesty, they're not honest like that with themselves. So how can they be that honest with me about myself? Or maybe they haven't even don't even have the skill set to dig deep enough to say, what is it about her I don't like? Like, what is it? Maybe they just be like, I just don't feel like this will work. And it's not, and leave it at that instead of going deeper. Like, what is it about her Because what it actually is, what's going on with me that I'm not, it is
Yeah,
it's a reflective question, right?
it is.
It's not just you, because as I've been learned in many of my workshops, the universe is always reflecting back to you who you are. So if you're noticing something in someone and it's so big, even though in you it could be this small, but it's this big and you need to work on it so you can get past it, you know?
I love that. Well, and the fact that you're owning it, that's huge, right? Because I always say, and to me, that's where the empowerment comes in because you can't change other people. They're going to be who they are. And if you keep attracting who you don't like, it's not on them, it's on you, right? Like, and I had to do deep work on that myself. And so if you're, say, an over caretaker, you might be attracting, takers. Let's just call it that, right? So how can you lead with something different and for yourself? And I think that's super important. When I work with clients, I do this thing called data dating. And I say, like, you can't get a boyfriend or girlfriend as long as you're under my watch for the first 3 months. You just have to collect data. you know and with that, they people then are not so focused on, are you my boyfriend, are you my girlfriend? It's like, oh no, how am I showing up, and what can I do differently, and oh, this feels kind of good. And that's all you can do. To me, that's the empowerment too. So I love that you said that. um were there any like surprising moments or like funny moments in the episodes that you remember, and that, I don't know, it could be for anything
I
really.
could tell you when I was on the Golden Bachelor, I was in a room with there was seven of us in a room. So I was in the big room with April and Susan and Kathy and Nancy and Jeannie and Peggy. So, if you know April, Susan, and Kathy, they have big personalities.
They're awesome, yeah.
Yeah, right. So, and they're very funny. And so,
Hmm.
I mean, one night we were all just in stitches to, I think, about 3 o'clock in the morning in the dark talking. And I don't even remember. I just was laughing, but they were saying to me, "We're sorry we kept you up all night." I said, "I was laughing myself." But they were doing all the going back and forth about, you know, um, age and having an aging partner and what works and what doesn't work, and it was just so funny. And we were just, it was just gut busting funny. It was just so, it was like we were at camp, and that is one of the most memorable moments for me is that night we just was up so late laughing um and just enjoying each other, and it was so much like being a child in like back in camp days, so you get to have that experience, that camaraderie, that connection, that um just spending time. It's an intimacy also with
Mm-hmm.
other women. And you get to see that, you're at this age, but you still have all of this fun and funny and humor and all the good things that you had when you was a child is still there. Like you said earlier, it's still there. You just gotta bring it out and bring out your sexy. It's a state of mind. It's not the color. It's not wrinkly skin or the size clothes you wear or whatever. That's just a portion of it. But you have to illuminate who you are. You get to dig deep and illuminate your presence and who you are. And when you do that, everything, the sexy is right there. Everything is there.
I love that. And you're really bringing out something that is so important. Like, I can't tell you how many times I'll talk to people in the beginning, like what's wrong with their dating life,
Mhm.
everybody is so serious. So serious. And, obviously, like, there has been some trauma and dark stages in people's lives, but then there's no joy, there's no playfulness, there's no that, like, that kid like thing. And honestly, like, that's usually one of my first goals for people is like, just have fun. Like, dating is fun. but a lot of people treat it like a chore. And if you're doing more like that kid like energy where you feel like you're at camp or a sleepover and being goofy, like at my retreat, I make people, I do scavenger hunts and I make people wear these cat ears and put on a costume and they have to go out in the field and do silly things with strangers. And like the looks on people's faces before they go out, they like look, if looks could kill, they're like, Kimmy, I am not doing that, you know, and very serious. But then afterwards, they come back and they're like giddy. They're like laughing like kids. And it's like, to your point, that playfulness is what's so attractive to both sexes, by the way.
Hmm.
And you said something really also, I think, interesting with like we have to really ask questions. Like we have to see where people are at, but there's also a pacing with that that gets to happen too. And so, like, if you look at dating as a skill, if in the beginning it's that joy and playfulness, and then there's plenty of time to have those questions, you know, then I think we would all have a lot more fun and we would be more connected too, because I think we're trying to do our checklist too much. Did you see that happening too? Like people were trying to like vet so hard with like whether it was Gary or even just like with your
I think
friends.
I think I saw that more on Bachelor in Paradise than I did on
Oh,
Golden Bachelor. But on
interesting.
but because we had more men to select from, and so
Yeah.
we were trying to see, so we were doing more of that. Uh, but I also was, for me, I was looking at, well, I was asking a lot of questions, but I always was like, do you are you interested in me?
Yeah.
Like, are you interested in, like, can you ask me some questions? Like, and that was very telling for me. Like, there was no ask back. It was just all about me. All about me. Yes, questions about me. And I just feel like when I was talking to the women, they would talk about, the characteristics of each person. And that's why when I was on Bachelor in Paradise and Gary came on and we went to talk, he was giving me like right eye contact. He was asking me questions. We were exchanging energy. And he was into me in terms of when he talked to me, he was 100% present, you know. Um, I, for me, it was like he was listening to respond opposed to listening to react.
Oh, that's good.
So
Hmm.
when someone listens to react, they're listening to come up with the answer or the next thing, but they're not listening to respond. And there's a whole, when you respond to something and when you react to something, it's two different come froms, you know?
100%. I'm glad you said that because that was my impression of Gary too. Like when he would listen, you could see it in his nonverbals too, just like the way he would look at people when they talked. And that's so valuable and super sexy, by the way,
Mhm.
for women, because to your point, a lot of times men are too caught up in the lines and getting ahead of it rather than really listening. And there is a difference. I'm glad that you validated that because that was my impression as well.
Yeah, he was 100% like right there. He was very
Hmm.
present when you spoke. He was, responding. There was a flow. It didn't feel forced. It was just very organic. And I thought that was a turning point for me because I saw a distinct difference between RJ, who listened to react.
Yeah.
He always had the one-liners and he was this one-line guy and all of that stuff. But when I was with Gary, he just, like, I was just like, wow, this guy sees me. And that was very important to me that he saw me. I was like, he sees me, like he sees me. And that that was the deciding factor for me. And I remember somebody on social media said, why did you choose somebody who didn't choose you? And what I find interesting
Hmm.
when this person said that, she said, Natasha, why did you choose Gary when he didn't choose you? But what she didn't realize is RJ didn't choose me either. He wasn't listening. He wasn't asking me questions. He wasn't present to me. He wasn't choosing me either. You know
Right.
what I mean? So it's
Right.
like just because it was just because it wasn't verbal, or he didn't you didn't see it on camera, or you didn't pick up what was going on, it doesn't mean it wasn't happening. Like, I was clear, he wasn't interested. He really wasn't interested in me. He was interested in going through the motions, but he wasn't
Hmm.
interested in me. And the other thing that really took me out, was really like a is when I saw when he left the show, he said, I want to be married again. I'm looking for a partner to spend my life with. He never said that to me when we were in all the conversations we
Oh,
were doing, talking.
interesting.
Never he said, "Oh, I want to be married again. I'm looking for a person to spend the rest of my life with." None of that came out. I was like, where was that conversation when
Yeah.
we I
Well,
was saying, what do you want to do in this stage of your life? You kept talking about traveling, and then you have to move and this and that. But there was never I'm looking for a partner that I could spend the rest of my life with and travel with and da 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 and this, that, and the other.
well, see, and that's really interesting to know because that's why I say you can't take everything at face value, what you see, because we wouldn't know that as viewers, right? Like what is said into the camera and what is said to you personally. So that is really important. And in real life, we do have to pay attention of how people show up and really, really listen. So like besides the guys, I think that is a common mistake that I think a lot of guys make. Were there some mistakes that the women made that you thought that was maybe a theme or you saw a couple people do? You don't have to throw anyone under the bus, but just like overall.
I feel like we didn't, for us, there weren't enough men to choose from. And I think that
Uh,
we felt like we had to take who was there, opposed to like got personal. It's like,
right.
and this person, you're hot and heavy with this person, you're not hot and heavy with this person. You're interested in that person, you're not interested. And I guess that's what dating is, right? It's just
It
like
is.
it's a process of elimination, but I just feel like it would be really great to um I think it would be really great for them to have the men and the women, and then we do like some sort of something like what you're doing, like some kind of coaxing
Yes.
and work on and this that, and then put people together and see what happens. But it would have to be it's not it would what I'm talking about would have to be like almost a 3-month process, because this is not something you could
Mhm.
do over a weekend and then it's all well and good. No, people, you need to be talked to. They need to dig deep in their crap. They need to address their isms and their issues and get through it. And I think when they're able to do that on both sides, you know, it would you could probably get some really strong couples.
Okay, that's our next show. So, who's ever watching this right now, Bachelor Nation, this is our next show. Well, yes. I mean, and that's the thing that we can't take at face value, like the amount of time that happened, and also knowing how groups are and the competitiveness that happens. Obviously, it's a show, right? It's for entertainment. But in the real world, if you have one guy and 10 women, it's bound to create this kind of hunter mentality and competitiveness. And I still was I was pleasantly surprised at how beautiful the women bonded compared to like the younger generation that you see, because it was still about the friendship. But still, I mean, you can't help but to feel that as you're going through it. I mean, so yeah, I think you're on to something. And also it causes people to act like how they normally wouldn't act.
Exactly.
Right.
I think that. that is a big part of it is you're in a situation, it's almost like you're in a think tank and you're there for
Yes.
a couple of minutes and you gotta kind of like, let me hook up with this one, let me get with that one. And like I didn't even get a chance to really get to know our CK. I had time with Gary, but I never walked off and had a conversation with CK. Why? Because he thought that RJ and I was such a item, and we had just met. It's like, why do we have this? This is old school, right? The
Yeah.
old school thinking is, oh, well, they're together. I'm not gonna get when he could have simply came on and said, let me get some time from you. Let me talk to you. Let me get to know you. I mean, I think that they're uncomfortable too, the men. They're put in
Yes.
that situation. And I mean, I could have said that too. Like I could have said, well, let me get to know you. Let's like my old school thing is the men are supposed to approach me, right? But I could have easily went over to him and said, listen, I want to talk to you and tell me a little bit about yourself. I could have did that too. But these are some of the things we have to work through, get rid of. Yeah, these old school mindset, this mindset of thinking that the man pursues you, and then you're thinking, oh well, I don't want to be too forward because if I'm too forward he might think this about me because you got the old school thinking. You don't know, he might have the old school. It's just so it's a challenge. You just don't know in such a short span of time what to do.
Well, you're highlighting something that honestly could be a whole nother episode, and maybe you'll come back on and we can talk about it. Is just how masculinity and femininity shows up today in the modern world. I still believe a woman should be a woman and a man should be a man in a way of like, the fundamentals,
Mhm.
but we are different now, like it can't go back to the 1950s. And I think this is a real conversation. And what's happening is that everyone's getting confused too. So no one's approaching anybody. Like I see this out in the wild. Like, the men are complaining that the women are, they're not approachable because they're all cackling in the corner talking about how much they hate men. And then, right. And women are complaining about the men. They're not masculine enough to come up and be like that alpha energy. Well, so no one's meeting anybody, right? Like we're all, so my take is that both sexes have responsibility and approachability. We have to make it a little easier and men have to stop hesitating, and meet somewhere in the middle kind of thing. But
I
that's
think,
another issue, right? Like that, especially with modern dating.
yeah, I think if women were put in a position like, just let's just say this program comes to life, what I was talking to you about, and let's
Yeah.
just say they make the women be the one to go approach men. Women would see how difficult it is for men to come up and
Yes.
approach them. So it's a role reversal, right? And I think when women are able to see that, maybe they won't be in the corner talking about men. Maybe they will separate and isolate within themselves, step away from the crowd. Because I heard that too, that um when you go to some of these high-end places or bars and stuff, don't go with your friend, go by yourself because a man is more likely to approach you when you're alone than when you're with
True.
a friend or two. So it's like, and women are pack animals. We really are. We don't, we don't really do much without our friends, or we don't feel comfortable doing something without at least one person with us. And I think men get to understand that about women, that women are pack animals. We really are. We like to run in a pack, even if
Yeah.
it's two people. It's like, girl, come go with me to such and such and such, or girl, come go with me to the doctor because I'm going. Girl, come go with me to the dentist. 'Cause I'm going. Girl, come go with me to this movie. I'm gonna go to this party. Or that's how we do.
Yeah, it's true. And men are for the most part hunters and they go by themselves yeah. And so, oh my gosh. Okay, so this relates to my last question. I was looking at the time. I'm like, "Oh my god, I could go on and on with you." What's next for you? Maybe that could be your next homework assignment, sitting at a bar by yourself. I'm going to challenge you, and then you're going to come back on and tell me what happened.
Up for that
But this
challenge.
is something that I give my clients all the time. And I think to your point, because I know, like, aren't you in the kind of a transition period right now where you're going to like
Yeah,
focus
yeah.
on
I
it?
had actually a friend of mine from high school and I were supposed to be doing this very same thing. Pack talking about pack animals. But she's now dating someone, so I'm now gonna venture and do this on my. I'll do it. I'll do it. But what's next for me is my women over 50 community that I'm launching next month,
Oh,
where women come together in a safe space where they can talk about the challenges they're having. In this stage, as you know, we have interconnected challenges,
hmm.
meaning we have issues, we have concerns about menopause, we have health issues. Some of us are dealing with nesting, divorce, career change, caretaking, all of these things, looking at ourselves in the mirror, embracing this stage of life, and they're interconnected challenges because one leans into the other. Relationships are changing. Your friends that you had for 2, 3, 4 decades are you're growing apart, and you have to, find new friends or whatever the case is. All of these things are real, and they're not places. Women don't feel that they're a safe place for them to talk about it if they're going to talk about it, or if they're talking about stuff their friends ain't talking about what they talking about, and they're like, oh my gosh, how come they're ignoring this? So that's my thing, is launching this women over 50 community, because we get to be together and resolve. We're going to meet, we're going to coach on these issues, and then we'll also coach once a month on a hot seat. And my goal is to make a library of topics women can go to, which will be anything from fitness to recipes to healthy eating to managing grief, managing relationships, saying no, setting boundaries, like taking off the cape and burning it. So
We're creating a new one, a new sparkly one.
right, right. And challenging yourself to go on these dates or places that you always wanted to go, and do things you always wanted to do that you haven't done.
Oh my gosh. Well, I love it. I'm going to keep following you and supporting you. So you please let me know. And how can people find you in your program, and what's the best way of getting in touch with you? And then also just kind of some final words of wisdom.
Yeah, you can find me at Hardy Life. My last name is Hardee Life, on Instagram, TikTok, and on YouTube. So that's where you can find me, Hardy Life, because you deserve a hardy life. And um, that's how people can contact me. And you can also email me, info@hardylife.com. Um, and my words of wisdom is very simple. Just believe in yourself.
Hmm.
Count on yourself to be the best version of you. All the energy that you've poured into everybody else, stop and take it and pour it into you. If women could just stop giving to everybody else and take that energy and give it to themselves, invest in themselves, spend time with themselves, give themselves the love and care that they give out to everyone else. And I know it's difficult. I've been there. I've been down that road. I'm saying this because I've had to do it to myself. Reform people pleaser,
Yeah,
right?
me
So
too.
just
Hmm.
when you take that energy and start giving it to yourself, you'll see, you'll evolve to a most magnificent individual. And not only that, you teach the people around you how to treat you. When you start treating yourself that way, the people around you will treat you that way. I know it sounds the craziest, but it really does work. When you start pouring into you, people will pour into you. When you tell people, no, I'm not able to do that, my plate is full, and there's nice ways to say no. When you start doing that, they back off. They begin to back off.
So
And you,
important. Yeah, no, that is so important. And I want to take it one step further in relation to dating, too, is when you it's not getting rid of you being a caretaker, right? Because it's a beautiful quality, but people have got to earn that from you. But and that's why saying no to the things you don't want to do and saying yes to the things that you do want to do is so important, because then you get to see who shows up. And I find is when, like, because I think women in particular, although I actually work with a lot of men who are overgivers too, is when you do, like, kind of almost get a little more selfish, I call it, and demand more for yourself. You actually attract a more reciprocal relationship and not a lopsided one. So that what you just said is so crucial.
yes, and the other thing people need to remember is when you say yes to someone else, you're saying no to you about something.
Beautiful. Natascha Hardee, I adore you. I feel like we're sisters. I will definitely have you back if you want to come back. But thank you so much for sharing everything that you did, and I so enjoyed it.
You're welcome, and I'm going to email you and let you know when I'd go on that date.
Oh, you not only that, you're gonna come. You're gonna come and talk about it at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Okay, I love it. And thank you for joining me today. You listening. This has been the Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, of course, Kimmy Seltzer. And remember, you can build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. If you want to know more, like always, go to my website, kimmyseltzer.com. And if today's episode lit a little spark in you and you're ready to experience that kind of transformation in real life, join me at my upcoming intimate co-ed Golden Bachelor retreat. I'm actually even calling it the Golden Bachelor retreat. It's November 7th through 9th. It's coming up pretty soon in Southern California. And it's a real life version of everything we kind of talked about. I do have a couple spots left. So if you are interested, definitely get in contact me. Just go to askkimmy.com and inquire within, and we can see if it's a good fit. So remember, as always, I end the podcast this way. Remember, like, when you work on you, that is working on your dating life. That's all for now.